So you mentioned a couple examples, through the purchasing process, the order to cash, but how are the solutions Turbine offers actually saving companies money without proper workflows and automations to streamline these workflows? Are e-coms leaving money on the table?
Yeah, so one of the easiest ways that we can point to is through our inventory forecasting. So one of the great things about Turbine, because we connect to all these different places where you're already selling, we can help you better forecast your orders. And I mentioned my background is really as a data engineer. And so one of my favorite parts of the product is that we can ingest all of your historical sales data and help forecast what your sales will be with a certain level of confidence, give you that information, and then allow you to do the last mile customization, right? And as I remind my customers, like, no one knows your business better than you. No computer, no algorithm, no fancy schmancy spreadsheet person is going to know your business better than you. So we say use the forecast as a starting point and then adjust and tweak as you need. But then what we can do is help you ensure that you have the inventory to support that forecast and continuously be forecasting for you. And one of the things that we rolled out a couple weeks ago was being able to highlight to you for any SKU that you have in inventory, are you red, yellow, green on it? So red, you need to like take action right now so you don't stock out. Yellow, you need to take action in the next month. And green, you're fine for the next month. But we're considering not just what do we forecast your sales out to be, what is the lead time we need to consider, what manufacturing do you have in the process, kind of what are all the pieces to make sure you're trapping the least amount of cash as possible in the inventory piece of the business.
Right. Yeah, I like that approach. The red, yellow, green. It's kind of flashes a big red light, and I need to
Exactly.
take action. Sometimes that sort of simple approach is
Yeah.
a key to improving processes. Um, can we talk a little bit about the timeline of an e-commerce business and at what stage it becomes important for them to sort of step up their inventory workflow, inventory management system, and have sort of a solution like Turbine to help manage those workflows?
Yeah. So I think of it less around time and more around business milestones. So oftentimes, brand will start one person. And if you're one person, a lot of times we talk to people who are like, we manage it all in our heads. And then you bring on a second person and you move to a spreadsheet. And then you bring on a third or a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and maybe a couple more people, and the spreadsheet's working. And then right around 10, you've unfortunately created a situation where Sally on your team, she owns the spreadsheet. And the week she's on vacation is the week it needs to get updated. And so it never gets updated. And then it ends up costing someone along the way something like $20,000. Like, those are the sorts of things that we see that becomes a real, like, oh, we need a better system here. Same thing around, so, it's usually right around that 8 to 10 people mark where whatever systems or processes you had just aren't working anymore. And the way we have seen this pattern is like you start manual because you don't know what you need. So manual workflows are great. Like I say all the time, Excel is the greatest app ever invented. It can do everything. It's great. But the minute you need things like controls and one-way workflows, like when Excel starts breaking, that's when, not because of data volume or something like that, but because you're ready for a system, you need to know what purchase orders were cut and you can't rely on someone manually updating a spreadsheet. That's when we come in and we have a great conversation with brands. And almost always we're seeing them move from spreadsheets into something like Turbine. Every once, or probably about a third of the business is them moving from a couple other competitors to Turbine. But we focus so much on really understanding what's hurting before we even recommend whether or not Turbine's a solution.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. From our perspective, we deal with a lot of startups from early stage to growth, and those early stage companies are living out of spreadsheets, living out of
Mm-hmm.
Excel, and it works for a little while until it breaks, right? There's just
Yeah.
too much volume, too many people involved, and um, the process
And
gets more difficult. So having
and
automation is
mm-hmm.
key.
And everyone's like likes their spreadsheets a little bit differently, right? Like I would rather share a toothbrush with my husband than a finance spreadsheet, right? Like uh, everyone likes their spreadsheets a little bit differently, and I had a boss who used to say like whenever he shared a spreadsheet, he would say, "And you can't hold me accountable if you don't understand what's going on," because everyone approaches it a little bit different. I saw this all the time in business school when we'd get an assignment and be like, go build a model for something something something, and we'd all come back with spreadsheets that don't even look like they're solving the same thing, right? Because everyone has their own approach and what you put on a tab, and like, do you make things colored? Is the colored boxes the editable or the not editable? Like
Right, right.
everyone has a different approach, and that's okay. But at some point you realize like the customizable, you want less flexibility in your systems as you're scaling.
Right. You must really love spreadsheets if you're willing to share a toothbrush, but I'm on the same page. I couldn't agree more. Um, So yeah, I want to end by highlighting the importance of having access to real-time accurate data for an e-com. Executives
Mm-hmm.
of these e-com businesses rely on data to make daily decisions about inventory procurement, as well as forecasting supply and demand of their products at a SKU level.
Mm-hmm.
So as a first step, what would you recommend to e-com execs who are struggling with some of the issues we talked about today? What would you recommend as sort of as that first step?
Yeah. So um there's this exercise that I've recommended to folks around a decision log. So for a day, just any day, it could be the rest of today whenever you're listening to this, or tomorrow, just like log every time you made a decision. Decided to eat eggs for breakfast, decided to make candidate an offer, decided to cut a purchase order for X units to Y supplier, but didn't pay rush shipping, right? Like just log all those decisions. And at the end of the day, carve out an hour to say, what information did I not have that I wish I had on that decision, right? Like if you walked into the conversation, you made a decision anyway, what information do you wish you would have had to make a better decision? And where are the places you deferred making a decision because you didn't have the information you need? And I think that's one of the things I've really come to appreciate is like almost always people kind of know. When I'll give you an anecdote. I remember being in this one particular meeting at GitLab where we're talking about how many people apply, and I forget the numbers now, but the VP was like, I think we get like 9,000 applications a month. And I'm sitting in this call. I pull up my database editor and I write the SQL query like to see how many applications we get. And like the prior month, we had gotten 10K. So I come off mute and I say that. It's like, did that materially change anything? Like going from 9,000 to 10,000? Like, does that actually change something in terms of whatever decisions were made next? And oftentimes it's like, there are lots of things where our gut is close enough, but where we need the data, we need it to be accurate. We're pricing out a new 3PL and we need to know how many packages we're shipping. Or we want to know when we're going to be out of SKU ABC so that we can reorder it, and there's a 9-month lead time. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room here, right? Like being really clear on what information you need and what's really going to drive the needle makes a huge difference. I'll give you one more specific example. So Black Friday just passed, and for a lot of brands thinking about their Black Friday strategy, part of what they were driving to do this year was not just give these really cool 20-30% discounts, but give those discounts on bundles so that the average order amount was higher than in years past. Now imagine if you could look at your inventory and say, here are the items we have a lot of. here is the profitability of each of those items. How can we maximize profitability in our decisions on what bundles to create? So we know that, the hero item is going to sell. What do we package with this that's going to make for a great customer experience and improve our average profitability or our average contribution margin per order? Like, those are the sorts of questions where, like, being really exact on the data matters. Did 9,000 versus 10,000 people apply to your job? That probably doesn't.
Not so much, right? Yeah, it's great. It sounds like, what you guys are doing at Turbine is putting all the, your experiences, your minds together to come up with the right data points and get that information out into your solution. So, you can help these e-coms have the right data at the right time to then make the right decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's not just me talking to our customers. It's not just our support team, but making sure our engineers are in the Slack channels with our customers where they can engage as well and understand what we're building and what problems we're solving for them and what information they don't have that they need. Like, these are all pieces of the puzzle that, when put together, can make sure we're really building this better experience for our customers, which we hope translates into better experiences for their customers.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Emilie. Really appreciate the time today. I think it was very insightful. If there are any listeners that want to connect separately on, anything e-commerce related or to learn more about Turbine, feel free to reach out to us directly. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, Lonnie, for having me.
Yep. Thanks, Emilie.